Another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Happy Tuesday. Today we are going to be talking about labor and what labor looks like currently in the ag industry and some things that we can be doing as producers to not only bring in new labor, but also retain the labor that we currently have. I am a big believer that you cannot grow a cattle business without people, but finding and keeping that good help, that's where we're seeing a bottleneck breaking of a ton of operations. So labor is truly just one of the biggest threats that we're seeing to production ag right now. And as producers, we need to be figuring out ways that we can continue to evolve and grow as leaders in the industry, but then also as people who are standing up for labor shortages and what that looks like for us as an industry. Because the consensus of it, at the end of the day, we don't have an industry if we don't have people working and able to work. So first and foremost, where do we stand? What is the problem? Where are we looking at? Here's the thing. Hiring is hard, but retention is even harder. So from feed yards to on-ranch workers, just at the end of the day, anything that's involved in ag throughout the entire life process of these cattle, right? So from on the ranch to those feed yards to the packing plants, we are seeing every sector stretched extremely thin. So the workforce, and with this stretching of the workforce and being stretched thin, the workforce isn't just aging, which we are seeing. We are seeing an aging workforce. It's also just disappearing. And the reality of it is there's no cavalry coming unless we start to build it. So here are some of the consequences that producers are living with, right? We're seeing overworked teams, and those overworked teams then lead to sloppy mistakes, burnout, missed margins, all of those things like that. Then animal care starts to suffer, efficiency tanks, and we just see an overall morale drop. Like, if we're being real, if you're overworked, you're not really having fun at your job, right? And so when we're seeing all of these, operations are stalling out and shrinking. And when you don't have the people to sustain it or scale, what are you supposed to be doing, right? So what is causing it? Here's some things that are causing it. Really quick fire. Pay pressure. We're seeing wages are rising and not every operation can compete. Housing and logistics. You can't hire help if you can't house them. And that's whether you're doing on-ranch housing or whether you're trying to find housing in rural communities, that's an issue on both aspects, right? Then we're seeing an image problem. Ag jobs are branded as undesirable, and that is honestly just on us to rewrite as agriculturalists. We have a mess, absolute mess with immigration and H-2A labor reform. So we're seeing H-2A it's just limited and inconsistent. And then year-round help, yeah, that's non-existent under current law. So just a mess with all of that. And then we're also just seeing a disconnected culture. So fewer young people even knowing that careers in ag exist if they didn't grow up in it themselves. So what can we be doing? That is the whole point of this episode, is I want to be talking about what we can be doing as agriculturalists. And if you are watching on YouTube, this fly is a paid actor. I am so happy that it is warm out, but oh my gosh, I hate flies. Sorry. So what can we be doing? Here are some things that I want to encourage you guys as agriculturalists that you can start showing up in your communities and really start doing for this labor shortage. So first and foremost, build your own labor pipeline. What this can look like is partnering with local schools, FFAs, ag programs, hosting job shadow days, things like this, where you are hiring high school or college aged help during peak season and you're training them early, right? So you're training them early and you're putting a lot of effort into training them how to do these jobs with the hope that they are going to stay in your pipeline, right? So you're hiring them for lower paying, easier jobs that they can do while they're in high school or in college, and then training them and involving them to grow into a bigger, more permanent position, right? So I really encourage this. You're going to find a lot of high school kids that just need 5-10 hours a week of something to do either after school or on the weekends, or especially during summer, just finding someone that can start coming in. And a lot of these kids have a really great work ethic. And so I highly, highly recommend partnering with your local schools. Get in touch with your FFA advisors, you can even get in touch with your extension offices, try and find help there. But really building your own pipeline is a great place to start. Next, I want to talk about retention over recruitment. Okay, you've got people, right? But you need to be able to keep them at the end of the day. So good help stays when they are respected. So as a boss, are you leading well? Are you offering growth with clear roles, responsibility, and fair pay whenever possible? With this, I want you to be focusing on the simple wins. Retaining employees doesn't always mean that you have to have this big, clear, amazing plan, perfectly lined out career path for them. No. Sometimes it's just finding the simple wins. So for some of you, it may be that you're doing team breakfast every single morning. You're providing breakfast at the main office and you are doing team breakfast, and it just helps build morale and get people together. Maybe you are making sure that work schedules are out way in advance. You are doing birthday checks. You're doing like the little things that don't seem like they might be a lot, but at the end of the day, it is making your employees feel seen and heard and cared about. The small things matter with retention. Just really remember that. The small things matter. Care about your employees. I said this a few weeks ago, but I was gone in DC in March, and my employee, Allie, did an amazing, phenomenal job at keeping the wheels turning while I was gone, because the reality of it was I was way busier in DC than I thought I was going to be. And so there were a lot of things and projects that I had every intention of working on while I was there, but was unable to. And so during that, she picked up where I left off and just did an amazing job. And so a couple times during that week, I sent her a gift card for some coffee and said, "Coffee on me. Thank you so much for your hard work." And that is a situation where it's like the small things. It cost me $5 to do that and 30 seconds of my time to send her that, but it meant the world to her. So where can you find small things that can add up to big things in retention? Now, I want you to rethink structure. And when I say this, I want you to remember to have like an open mind with this. Okay, right? So I want you to shift from the idea of warm bodies to skilled workers. At the end of the day, fewer good people way outweighs lots of turnover, right? So shifting from, hey, we just need a warm body here, and that warm body isn't seen or cared about, or you don't have a ton of input into them, right? And change that into, if you have 5 good workers that can do the work of 30 people, then that's way better. But when I say this, I also don't mean that you're not paying these fewer good workers to do the work of 30 people. Does that make sense? So you're not still paying them $15 an hour, but they're doing the work of 5 people, right? That goes back to retention. Really caring about your people, putting in the money is a big part of it. I think that that's not something that I really discussed a lot on this episode is pay, but pay your employees well. Like, we can't keep paying people $10, $12 an hour and expect them to be doing the jobs that we're asking them to do, right? Okay. Next, I want you to be leaning into smart technology. So invest in labor-saving tools where it makes sense. So keep tech simple. It should support, not replace. So this really leans into that thing that I was just talking about before, right? On the rethinking of structure. Having good technology to help support really good employees is absolutely a win when it comes to labor. Next, I want you to explore legal labor options. So this means researching H-2A and partnering with agencies who really understand the red tape. And emphasis on pairing with those agencies that understand the red tape, because it is a mess out there. It absolutely is. But when you can get good H-2A employees that can come back year after year after year, it is unmatched. We have had some amazing employees come through H-2A programs. Now, that does not say that it does not come without its red tape, without a lot of the stuff that just is not fun when dealing with that. But it is so worth it if you partner with an agency and people that really understand it and can help you succeed in that area. Now, this plays perfectly into my last point, and that is getting loud about policy. I have shared it before. I could do an entire episode on the BS of H-2A and the BS of visas and labor and all of this stuff that we have going on right now for hours. Like, I could talk about it for hours. I want you to be calling your representatives, and I want you to be asking about year-round visa reform. Those I genuinely think that if we can get reform in the year-round visas, and then we need a true path to citizenship for H-2A employees and for people on visas, right? We need a true path to citizenship, and we need that year-round visa reform. If we can get those two things, we will solve a lot of problems in ag. Now, it is not that simple. Those are two sentences that, yes, I would love for those to happen. At the end of the day, I acknowledge that it's not that simple. And I fully understand where everyone is coming from in their really strong beliefs and thoughts around immigration and all of that jazz. But at the end of the day, we need workers. We need people that are able to work and be here and willing and able to do these jobs that we are asking them to do. And so I really, really, really encourage all of you to just acknowledge that there is an issue and then start calling your representatives, just educating yourselves, ask about that year-round visa reform. I want you to join groups that are advocating for realistic ag-specific labor reform. There are a lot of them out there, especially in the state of Kansas, where we have a lot of ag industry that is vitally, we rely heavily on H-2A employees and people on visas. The next thing I want you to do is really acknowledge that we're not going to get help if we're not asking and if we're not showing up. So it takes every single one of us involved in ag to be speaking up, to be calling our representatives, to be asking for help. Because at the end of the day, you can't change the labor market overnight, but you can change how your operation responds to it, right? So are you going to be that person that is standing up and speaking out about labor reform and speaking out about what we need in agriculture? I really encourage you guys to build the team, create the culture, and speak up at the end of the day, because no one is coming to fix the problem unless we start doing it ourselves. So those are kind of my thoughts on labor and what we're looking at right now. But again, I really encourage you guys to just become more educated on it, right? Become more educated on what your county and state regulations are on labor, what that looks like, building your own pipelines, really leaning into technology or whatever that looks like for you and your operation. As always, thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review, all the things. We really appreciate it. And we will see you all tomorrow on another episode. Have a good one.